rare that games are awarded with 3-year development cycles, but that's exactly how much time Nintendo's latest entry into its legendary Zelda franchise has spent in the cooker. What has Nintendo's development team been up to? Based on the fact that we're 20 hours into the game and only through the first handful of dungeons, we'd guess they were pretty busy. Considering the game was all but completed for the GameCube before it was moved over to the Wii, making the launch of its new system is no small project. Speaking of which, while we polish off the game in time for our review, we figured we'd give you a glimpse into what to expect from one of the most anticipated games this year. Twilight Princess begins much like any other Zelda game. Link is a young boy in a seemingly innocuous village where he passes the days as a herder. When dark creatures begin making an appearance, he's sent to Hyrule to get to the bottom of the mystery. It seems that particular parts of the region have been surrounded in twilight, an oppressive darkness that turns humans into unknowing ghosts. Link is eventually befriended by a small black creature named Midna, who unlocks his potential to turn into a wolf, and to ultimately save humankind from the twilight. What happens in between is anything but typical. Twilight Princess is a decidedly more adult game with darker themes. Some of the cinemas had us gawking at the TV in complete disbelief that we were playing one of Nintendo's games. Twilight Princess is basically divided into 2 parts due to Link's human and wolf forms. You'll end up traversing the same areas as the 2 different forms, with each having abilities that the other doesn't, making them able to access exclusive areas. As a human, Link can perform all the typical Zelda fare. In addition to swordplay, he gets all his expected armaments like the boomerang, iron boots, bow, slingshot, and so forth. All the classics have returned, including empty bottles to store things, rupees to buy items at shops, and plenty of surprisingly in-depth minigames like fishing that could ultimately be sold as standalone titles. As the wolf, Link's abilities are changed a great deal. While you don't have access to swords and other weapons, Link's bite is vicious. In wolf form, Link also has a variety of senses that he can use. The primary purpose of this is to eavesdrop on the ghosts of the humans scattered around the environments, which ultimately provide plenty of clues. Like a real dog, the wolf will also acquire the ability to smell different people from the game and ultimately track them down. Regardless of whether you're playing as man or beast, the Z-targeting combat remains the same. You can lock on to enemies and stay locked on as long as you hold it, and then wiggle the Wii remote from side to side to perform attacks. You can also hold forward and press the A button to rip off lunging attacks for both man and beast, or hold back and do evasive backflips. As you'd expect, the lock-on works for all of Link's weapons and wolf attacks. There's been a lot of conversation on whether the Wii controls were tacked on to Zelda at the last minute, in hopes of moving a lot of systems at launch. We can already tell you that this is not the case. In fact, certain things like shooting the bow on horseback while still controlling Epona simply couldn't be accomplished without the new controller. For the most part, the gestures you have to make are very subdued, with the exception of projectile weapons like the bow or slingshot, in which case you'll need to point the Wii remote at the television screen for precise targeting. Just like prior games in the series, you can map up to 4 items for immediate use at any time to the D-pad and B trigger on the Wii remote, with up on the D-pad always allocated to contacting your travel partner, Midna. Midna is your companion throughout the adventure, and he acts very similarly to Navi the fairy from Ocarina of Time. You can call on the creature at any time for advice on your current situation, and it will also help you reach areas that are inaccessible through conventional means. Probably the biggest help Midna provides is giving Link the ability to warp from one area to another. The world in Twilight Princess is absolutely massive, and without a proficient means of travel, the game just wouldn't be much fun. Midna can send you to a few different points in each area in the blink of an eye. Of course, there's always Link's trusty steed Epona, who can be called at any time by blowing into a blade of grass. Wind Waker had the wand, Ocarina of Time had, well, the ocarina, and Twilight Princess has the howl. While in wolf form, there are specific areas where Link can howl a particular tune, and he'll get picked up for an airborne lift. Toss in creatures called Okoko that allow you to get in and out of dungeons, and there's no shortage of ways to traverse the seemingly limitless territory packed into the game. Twilight Princess also has all the little touches that make Zelda games so great. You'll use a lantern running on oil to get through dark caves, but you can kill certain creatures and scoop up their remains in a bottle to use for fuel instead of paying for it. You'll also stumble across countless side missions provided by hundreds of non-playable characters, find hidden chests with heart containers strewn into the deepest, darkest corners, and otherwise exist in the alternate reality as if it weren't alternate. There's so much to see and do in Twilight Princess that we've been completely overwhelmed at times, but it's ultimately always left us with a smile on our face. We're powering through the game to give you our review on its release date, so stay tuned to find out if this dog's got a bite.